So finally, we're at the really important thing for everybody here, and one of the key things to kind of point out is that Git does not equal GitHub. Um, Git is this set of tools that was made for managing version control of a kernel. If you have more than three people, other version control systems really start to break down, and their utility kind of drops away when you need to. Um, so Git makes it collaborative in a great way. GitHub said, okay, well, I want the Web 2.0 version of this where I have APIs where I can write tools to talk to everything. I want a visual I want a visual overlay that allows me to collaborate with others. And on top of that, we can add all these other neat tools that just don't make sense to do in the command line. And one of the cool things is GitHub issues, which is one of their core initial things. Create an issue, you can link in different code and talk about different commits using these auto link features that they have. And you can also organize projects using like a Trello board interface. Actually, let's go ahead and pop over to it. One other thing I absolutely have to mention again is the Git website is git-scm.com, and they have documentation A to Z that really covers all of this. It's something in particular that I like to go to because the reference manual, you more or less can type in man git and get that, or man git dash commit, and it'll give you the reference page for it. You can also access most of it by typing in like git remote dash dash help, and that'll show you the manual page in the most specific way possible. So whenever you hit a point where it's not taking what you want, you just type in dash dash help, and you can type in / and the search term that you want, press enter, and navigate using Vim key bindings is normally how it's done. The I don't want that. The book, you can pay for the paper version, or have a whole searchable thing that you can kind of go over. And this is insanely useful. Each one of these subsections is maybe a page or two long. If you have the time, uh, you should read this up through, you know, uh, up through probably chapter 7, in order to get things down. Everything after that you don't exactly need, and some of this stuff you can skip almost entirely. On the flip side, it's if you don't understand, or don't kind of know off the top of your head the different things that are talked about inside of this short online book, it's very difficult to say that someone actually knows Git if they don't know some of the stuff that's in here. I try to condense as much as possible into my longer form videos where I actually show the worked example, if you prefer that format. And it's also, those videos are also very specific for the main mixtures, everything. So you might enjoy those, but otherwise, you could more or less read this, get up to speed, and know anything that you need to know. In fact, I'd say that the book explains things a little bit better than I do sometimes. But we were talking about GitHub issues and GitHub projects. Here's a project that I used for the speedrun video. And pretty much what you have is you have the ability to create cards, and create the columns and everything. It's like Trello, but it's free, and you can note, add. You can also convert each of these cards into issues. The reason that that's important is because there's a whole, and it'll auto link. Sorry, we'll go back here. When you do this, it'll auto link issues to each one of these cards. So as soon as you close an issue, it'll move it over to done, and there's a wide variety of customizability here, which will become important in a moment, and I'll show you why. Besides just having a nice little handy progress bar that just shows up and lets you know where you are, right? With issues, it becomes very easy to create an issue, describe the problem, lay out some quick embedded syntax to kind of talk about what's going on. We'll come back to this in a moment. When you convert from a project to an issue, you can auto link it to an ongoing project that uses that Trello card format. And you can also attach different milestones as you create them to kind of say, oh, hey, by the way, I've just hit this big milestone that says I'm ready for my production release. And once again, all of these things, all auto-linked. You can assign different people to different issues, and this becomes a really easy way to just kind of navigate and actually handle this. Besides the fact that auto-linking is in full effect in every single one of these comments. You can make comments and have conversation threads across the entire domain of everything you're working with, more or less. Cool things you can get out of it, just directly at someone. You can reference other issues or a pull request that happened. Typically that's done with the hashtag symbol. You type in hashtag and then the number of the thing. So for example, number 8 meshes with commit. Let's say I wanted to directly reference a revision or a commit in the ledger that is related to this issue. I can go over here. I want to copy and paste. Just give it to me. Okay. I can take these first 7 characters if I just know off the top of my head what's going on, and I can just type it here. It'll auto link it across everything and give you nice little handy pop-ups that let you know exactly what everyone's talking about, so you only talk about something in one place once. Another handy thing is that when you have most of this set up, and this is the default behavior, I broke it somewhere and I don't remember where and how I broke it. So we're just going to abide by it for now. I haven't. GitHub has documentation that talks about, hey, do you want to create automated handles that take your commit messages and just auto closes the issue, which in turn triggers the entire process across the line, right? I can say git commit -m fixes closes number 6. And when I actually make that commit and I git push it out, it'll go back and auto close the issue, which in turn will auto close the related card inside of the project, which will then update the little counter and lets everyone know what's actually going on, which is awesome in my opinion. And really the full force of this comes in when different people actually have access to each other's repos, which, you know, is under settings for your fork and then manage access. And, you know, checkboxes for everyone else who's ever made a fork of this repo if you want. And search for them to find them. This is how you enable that adding of remotes I was talking about earlier, where people can just have their local working copy and then be plugged into everybody else's remotes. So when they make changes to their remotes, there's a way for you to take your local copy and just go out, reference, find out what they changed, and pull in that code. So then that way you keep the revision history in line, and you also are able to work with stuff that's kind of in beta or not totally working yet. Next up, oh boy, I need to go back. Next up, I also need to talk about the full power of pull requests, and let's double check our time here. All right, we're not too bad. What happens when you have a branch where you've been working on some new features? For example, I have one that's named new feature that's used heavily inside of the short form version. You can initiate pull requests or compare. As you can see in the other videos, normally when it sees, oh hey, this branch is something I've been recently working on and it's finally at a point, it'll actually have a little green pop-up button here that says compare and pull request, which will automatically bring you to the new pull request page, which we will go to now. Badoom. Badoom. 36 closed. I had one that, right, here's some that I created for those GitHub tutorials that are all worked examples. And where this becomes really useful is it has this whole history of everything that you've been doing inside of that branch. And once again, each revision is tracked with a unique ID, so it becomes really, really easy to interleave various different versions and still work with any of them that you want. To actually do the code review portion of this, you go over to Files Changed, and down here, you'll get a full breakdown of what's been added, what's been deleted in a side-by-side view of all the various files. And here's the human ancestry script, here's the different revisions. And something you might notice is that I get these little blue icons that pop up. What you're able to do is make a line-by-line highlight and start comments or the full review process. And you do that with start a review. And you can make, all of this is markdown enabled syntax. So add a user, or you can say this was actually fixed in another pull request, or another issue. For example, this issue here that I said, hey, this looks a little wordy, can you simplify or instead say something else? And something else you were able to do is block comment again. There's an option when you click on this menu here to allow creating an issue that you can then auto assign yourself with. I don't know why it's not showing up for me right now. I assume it's for some sort of reason. Let's say I finish this review. So this creates this timeline of work that you can do, and you can show the resolved conversations, um, and keep track of things this way. Each time you go back and review and do that multi-line highlight, now we have these comments here that we and this conversation that people can kind of join in with, and also if you don't actually want to type anything, you got your emojis, which is awesome. And you can reference in a new issue, which you can then, of course, auto assign to yourself, throw it into a project, directly reference inside of the Git command terminal, inside of the terminal when you're issuing these Git commands, and create this interlinked web of everything to kind of organize and keep track of what you're doing. And of course, if you have a project set up for this issue, or you attach it to a project, it can automatically go into the to-do pane. So realistically speaking, I can just keep the project pane open, put it full screen, and then never look at anything else and keep my blinders on. So I can just kind of do it, right? Which is something I really, really like. You can also copy, quote, etc., to talk about it in the Slack. There's also a GitHub bot for Slack, so you can just be typing in Slack and automatically reference the commit, reference a commit, reference an issue, reference a pull request, on and on and on down the line, and so on and so forth. And this is a great way to do code review, because after you create these issues and you submit new code, if you're working inside of this branch that we've called new feature here, you can just create a new commit, push it to that branch specifically, and it'll automatically be added to the pull request. So that way, once it's in a ready state, you start the pull request, have the conversation, make the necessary changes based on the review tools. Once you go back and fix, and everyone can agree that it's in a finalized, nice, ready state, then the pull request can be accepted. And then, the very last thing that I want to point out here is the auto linking that can occur if you want to reference specific code. So for example, up here, this talks about all of this, or down here, this is like this is some code that was written to do a FizzBuzz example. I can go to that file. Nope, that's not what I want. Why would you link that there? Happens if I view the file. Yes. Okay. So once you go back to the original file and you view it inside of GitHub, I can actually select a line, copy this permalink, which is the same thing as up here, and you'll notice this is actually talking about a specific commit. It doesn't have to be like that. You can write a new version and then respond, and down here it says hashtag line 3 to line 10 is just what I want to reference. Yes. And I can paste this here, make a comment, and it didn't work. I can, or I can go into someone's repo, highlight some code, say, hey, I want to reference this in a new issue. It'll auto link the code, and it should auto display the code inside of the issue with a link back to the original file to keep everyone sane about it. If I copy the permalink, do the thing. It didn't do that. Normally it'll give you a little pop-up that just shows this, but maybe there's a different reason this is happening. I don't want to be here. I want to be here for some reason. I want that thing. I want that thing. And I'm just going to click highlight, copy permalink. No, go away. Yes, you. Hey, what about this stuff over here? Why is it doing it off the commit? Whatever. Well, God damn it. Hold on one second, because it's going to bug me until I show you guys that this actually works. Because I swear to God, it does, and it's maybe one of the most useful things on the planet Earth. So why am I not able to? I want this thing. I don't want that thing. I want this. Yeah, I want that whole thing right there. Okay. Issue, let's just say I create a new issue. Blah, blah. Paste. Submit new issue. Okay, it doesn't want to work for me today. Normally, it'll pop a preview pane where you can actually scroll through and literally read the code, but it doesn't want to do that right now, and I don't know why, and I've run out of time. So yeah, that's GitHub. And there's some really cool things here that we should be using more often. Okay, I think that's it. I don't remember if that's it. I should double check. Yeah. Yep.